And welcome back to the NWA 1983 project. I'm your host, Juan Cena, and with me, as always, is Matt Riley. How are you doing tonight, Matt?
I'm heated, man. I'm heated.
Still?
Nah, I'm all right.
All right, fantastic. So this episode will be an all-star extravaganza live from the Boston Garden and beautiful Boston, Massachusetts. The main event of this show will be Nature Boy Ric Flair, the NWA World Champion, taking on Roddy Piper, the United States Heavyweight Champion. That match should be a barn burner, folks. I did want to lead the show with the Boston Garden, talking a little bit about the Boston Garden, one of the wrestling cathedrals, wrestling holy ground throughout the ages. It's one of those places they're not really around anymore. It's gone. But again, it has so much history in there. So much cool stuff happened there. Would it be all the championships from the Boston Celtics and the Bruins and what have you, and it's a historic arena.
All right, fans, coming up a week from tonight here at Boston at the Garden. Saturday night, February 2, World Wrestling Federation action. That is simply unbelievable. In a return bout, Texas Tornado Tag Team match. Big John Studd, Ken Patera to meet Junkyard Dog and his partner Andre the Giant. By the way, Bobby the Brain Heenan will be there. The ladies champion Wendy Richter to be challenged by Judy Martin. In addition, Barry Windham from Sweetwater, Texas, just a little west of Abilene. Get ready, Windham to go against Russian Nikolai Volkov. Mike Rotundo, all that great card to meet the Iron Sheik. And Polish Power, Ivan Putski. We'll have to deal with the likes of my guest at this time, Mr. Wonderful, Paul Orndorff. You look a little down in the mouth this week. Any reason for that, Paul?
Yeah, there's a reason for it. You know that it's gotten to the point where every time that I look at the cameras that another woman leaves her husband for Mr. Wonderful.
I've heard.
Well, you know something? I'm losing sleep about that. And I can't help that.
You don't want to do it.
Listen,
you can't help the way you look.
Exactly. I know I'm not Mr. Wonderful. You know I'm Mr. Wonderful.
Nonsense.
So who are we to all those millions of people out there know that I'm Mr. Wonderful?
What are our opinions? Millions out there that say you are Mr. Wonderful. You're right.
Exactly right. And you know something, Gene, just to bring up some things that's happened to me lately. I was flying from L.A. to New York. I reserved my own first-class section.
The whole section?
Exactly. I have my own busboys. I have my own waitresses waiting on me. I want to be left alone. And Lord and behold, who comes up and bothers me? Who else? The captain of the airplane. Wanting to know, Mr. Wonderful, is it okay to take off now?
Oh, come on.
Hey.
The captain's trying to get your permission?
That's right. What do you do on that? Captain, hey, you call the control tower. They tell you when to take off.
Get the cards from them.
Exactly. Don't
Why
come
bother you?
And this stuff happens on and on and on. I can't even go to an airport. I can't even leave my motel because all the limousines are out there, traffic jams, fighting over to see who's going to take Mr. Wonderful to wherever he's going.
You've got no private life at all.
None.
It's got to be a nightmare for you.
It's terrible. It's terrible.
Sure.
And even in the Boston Gardens, look at all the legends that's passed through there. Bobby Orr, Larry Bird. Those are really legends.
Oh.
But the legends above legends is Mr. Wonderful, right here. Right here he stands.
You're putting yourself in the same category with...
I'm putting myself above them.
With the Koozies?
That's it.
With the Cowans?
And you know why? Do you know why? I'm going to show you the body that women love and the men love to fear. It's just that simple. Take a look at that. How's that look, huh? You don't think there's a man out there? Look at it. I know. Hey, it don't take much for you to please you. But you know something, Ivan Putski, turtle head? You know what a turtle does? You know when you see a turtle with that big old long head and then he does something and it goes in? Well, that's exactly what Putski's going to do. Exactly. It's going to go inside that shell. And you'll disappear. You'll never see it again.
A week from tonight, we'll see you there.
Now, the Boston Garden opened on November 17th, 1928, and its original name was Boston Madison Square Garden, because Boston always rips off New York, as we know. Eventually, it was shortened to Boston Garden. It was built and designed by boxing promoters Tex Rickard, who also owned the Rangers back in the day. He was involved in boxing and wrestling as well. Some of the notable events at the Boston Garden. Again, not a lot of wrestling pay-per-views there for whatever reason. It just wasn't. But again, it was home to the monthly house show that was, broadcast on Nesson back in the day. Is that still around? Yeah. Is that network still alive?
Nesson's still around, sure. It carries the Red Sox and the Bruins, and I think they also run Ring of Honor now.
Okay. That's cool. We have MSG here, which is I guess the same thing, just from Madison Square Garden.
Sure.
Mostly just from the Knicks and the Rangers now. They used to have the Yankees, but they moved to their own network. So yeah, that's the reason why I'm a Yankee fan and not a Mets fan, because the Mets was on Sports Channel here in New York, and that was a paid station like HBO.
Sure.
As part of a package, and if you only had basic cable, you got MSG and WPIX instead.
Hulk Hogan, heavyweight champion of the world, to defend against my guest at this time, the Macho Man. Take care of that man. Fred Fletcher. Yeah. Randy Savage, an opportunity to hold two of the most coveted titles in all of professional wrestling simultaneously. The Intercontinental title and the Heavyweight Championship.
Who's on the cover right here? Hulk Hogan, man. Times are changing. Yeah, times are changing, and he's gone. Yeah, right that? Down to the ground, yeah. Gravity takes over after a while, yeah. And the gravity, the force that pulls Hulk Hogan to the ground is the Macho Man Randy Savage. History was made in the Boston Garden when the Macho Man took the Intercontinental Heavyweight Championship belt away from Tito Santana.
Everybody in Boston knows how it happened, too, Randy Savage.
Oh, man, yeah. But I am confident right now that this is going to happen again in Boston. Lightning striking twice in the same spot. Don't tell me what I'm going to say before I say it. Because one thing that you can predict. You want to predict something right now? Predict that the Macho Man is going to beat Hulk Hogan in the Boston Garden.
You can't do that to me like you do to Elizabeth.
You can do it, man. I can do it. You can do it. Anybody can do it. When you got the talent. Yeah, when you got the talent. This bell.
Thank you.
And another one.
Macho Man Randy Savage to meet the heavyweight champ Hulk Hogan, Boston Garden, Saturday, May 24.
So again, it was the home of wrestling, many wrestling house shows. Again, it had that big title switch with Randy Savage and Tito Santana. If you guys remember that match, that's the one where Savage had the thing in his hand, and Santana went to go give him a belly-to-back suplex from the apron to the ring. And when he was in midair, Savage hit Santana in the head, and then hit him with something else, and then 1, 2, 3, it was over. So that's where Macho Man won the Intercontinental Championship. And its only pay-per-view was the 1993 Survivor Series. That was the one that had the All-Americans versus international team. I guess they were called the Foreign Fanatics, if my memory serves me correctly.
Okay. Well, there was the pay-per-view a couple years ago, the TLC, but that's...
Well, that's not the real Boston Garden. Wasn't the Boston Garden at the North Station, and now the TD Garden is in the South Station, or whatever it's called down there?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So it was slightly relocated. Now, the Garden was renovated a bunch of times, but it's never... After the third one, it never moved.
Yeah.
That's why it's called Madison Square Garden, because it used to be on Madison Avenue, but now it's not there now anymore. It's on top of Penn Station, which is it's easy access to get to. Like MSG is you just take the train in and you take the train out, and there's all the subways and shit emanating from there. So it's actually a real easy building to get to.
Yeah, well, in Boston now, when you go to take the train in, you got to cross the street, and it's a pain in the ass.
Oh, I can imagine. Now, Matt, since you're from that area. What are some of your memories of the Boston Garden?
Well, I'll start with the structure itself. The old Boston Garden had the charming allure of the obstructed view seats. And if you don't know how bad those are, I bought my dad tickets to see the Bruins play the Penguins back when Mario was playing, Mario Lemieux.
Yeah.
Obstructed view. And I didn't know how bad it would be. It was so bad, our seats were right next to the luxury boxes. So they came down to our left, so all we could see was one goalie and behind his net. That was it. Yeah. So we ended up getting up and standing behind the handicapped guys, which I later learned my friend Alan, his father, used to do too. He used to buy standing room only, then go and stand behind the guys in the wheelchairs and just lean against them.
Well, you don't have to worry about it. They're not going to get up. So
Right. So we watched the game kind of at an angle that way, but it was fine. We won 7-1 that game. I never forgot that. It was the Penguins were really powerful back then. But that was kind of to give you an idea of how dumpy it was. There were rats falling apart. It was just filthy.
Yeah, they said it was originally designed for boxing. So the Garden itself was you're really on top of the action.
Oh yeah, it was close up. The load seats were awesome. If you had load seats, you saw like really good view, everything. The problem was that place had a notoriously bad AC system, so in the summer it got super hot. They used to accuse the Celtics of shutting it off during the basketball games because they're like, oh, they're getting an edge on the Lakers or Houston or whoever, but it broke all the time. I mean, the old Garden was a dump. People paint them however they want, but it was a dump. So
it's a small building too. It only held about 15,000 people.
Yeah, it wasn't very big. Seating wise, loads were the best, but of course, most of the shows we went to were in the higher ups. Although I will say the best experience show I had was the one time the NWA came into town.
Yeah.
It was back in, I think, 88 or 89. I still have the playbill somewhere, but I remember the main event was between the time when Luger was out of the Horsemen.
Okay.
So timing-wise, it was before Wyndham turned. And it was Barry, Luger, Nikita, and Dusty against Tully, Arn, Rick, and Ivan Koloff.
That's interesting.
Guess who took the fall there? Oh, I'm sorry. It wasn't Dusty. It was Sting. No, Dusty was there because Dusty was there. I was like, anyways, that was the main event. But Steve Williams was on there. There was a fantastic Midnight Express match, which was an all-out crazy brawl, kind of like their Clash of the Champions match. And of course, looking back, you go, oh, they were doing it as a tune-up to their match, later on. But we were down on the floor, kind of at a wedge across from one of the ring posts.
Yeah.
And it was just a fun show. So that was a very gritty show. It was different because it was like a good crowd. And
how did the crowd differentiate from a WWF show to a NWA show?
It didn't seem to be as many kids. Like, there were kids there, but like a Hogan show, there's kids with Hogan shirts everywhere.
Yeah.
There was more like, I want to say teenagers and guys our age. We were kids, but like there were more people like our age and older. Like the little kids weren't really there. Which kind of goes back to the whole, Hogan was a kid's phenomena and Flair was the older kids.
Because even like Cornette mentions in his show, and the times they went up to Boston, they were like, "Ugh, we're going up to Boston," and they hated coming up here. Anytime they had to go to the north, they fucking hated it. Although their TV was strong around here. Like, yeah, well, we got Saturday Night and Main Event and all those shows. We knew exactly who these guys were. Yeah, they ran that one awful show at Nassau Coliseum. That was the only time they ran in New York, and the other time that they were even close was when they hit the Meadowlands. So. But it looked like from looking at the match results, they ran the Boston Garden more often than they ran in New York.
I would say so. I mean, it's funny because WF came about every couple months back in the day. They were here frequently.
Tomorrow night in the Boston Gardens in a bunkhouse brawl. I mean, bring it on. Anything you want, Ted DiBiase. Any way you want to do it. Because you're used to doing it your way and paying for it and jumping people from behind. You ain't going to have to look for Dusty Rhodes and Magazine tomorrow night in the Boston Garden. I'm going to find you and seek you out, Jack.
Ho! Hey, folks, first off, this is a running back jersey. I'm a lineman. I want a lineman's jersey. Second, tomorrow night in Boston Garden is Hacksaw Jim Duggan's kind of match. A bunkhouse brawl. Come dressed any way you want. Do anything you want to win. All you got to do is throw the other guy over the top. Keep your feet on the ground, and you come up a winner. So Hacksaw's got a game plan. Attack, 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 and I'm coming out on top. Oh!
And what was nice about Nesson back then, if you were a kid, you had Nesson, which most of us did with basic cable. When they ran shows in the Garden, about a week later, they did a package. They filmed it, and they had interviews. It was like it's like an own little encapsulated show.
Yeah.
Gorilla Monsoon here in the locker room area, along with Kenny Resnick and the Big Mouth. I think you bit off a little bit more than
Isn't it all right? Did you go to Atlantic City? Did you go to Atlantic City? Did you place your bet down, huh? How about Las Vegas? Go to Las Vegas, huh?
I frequent
flyer, yeah. Guess what? You're going to lose it all. Yeah, you're going to lose it all. And all the people.
How many friends do you think you'll have around that ring?
Probably none.
You're right.
Because when you're great like I am, you got a lot of jealousy, right? Envy, right? Announcer with the red tie, man. What do you got? A red tie behind a black tie.
This is why you stole the title right here in the Boston Garden. It's only fitting that you should give it up here.
Well, man, you wear something out. When you get a point, man, you just wear it out.
Let me ask you this.
Ask me another question besides the one you're going to ask me.
Do you have a senior prom coming up or something on March 29th, the night of WrestleMania in the Silverdome, Pontiac, Michigan? I don't see a contract anywhere with your name on it.
The lumberjack match has been boggling
No,
my
we're not
mind.
talking about lumberjack.
We're
now.
not talking about that. WrestleMania 3. Yeah, I can
right.
count. I got one finger up, but I know it's 3. Yeah.
Okay.
Guess what? You're seeing, but you're not observing. Yeah, you're looking at the greatest right now. Isn't that something? Yeah. Smile. Crack a smile. Guess what? Who's in
Point blank, Randy Savage. Ricky Steamboat, open contract, signed for WrestleMania 3.
Oh, is that right?
He has an open contract.
Open contract type of a thing.
You won't
yeah.
sign it.
Guess what
You're
happened on
yellow.
national TV when he was the #1 contender?
We'll be back in just a
yeah!
moment. Plenty of
The
action still to come
350
here.
You guys are
Take
great.
a hike.
Okay.
So one of the earliest shows I remember was when Dusty came over from NWA or WCW. His first match was with Ted DiBiase, who was $1 Million Man. And Dusty comes out, and the fans are like going nuts. And he goes to climb the corner turnbuckle, and he puts one foot up, and he slips. So he does a half roll into the ring, but catches himself and kind of balances. So everyone starts laughing. And he's still like, yeah, yeah, baby, yeah. He's powering up, and people are just dying. They're like, fat old Dusty almost fell over.
That's awesome.
And then he had a fantastic match with DiBiase. I mean, just like awesome match. It was like a textbook, like watch this match for a face versus a heel. You know, doing the Dusty thing. You know, the money part. Like so many wrestlers don't take the time to help sell the characters they're fighting or whatever to like play off their moves. Like it was a well done match.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed the promos, and it's actually one of the most famous promos. I don't know if you want to put the audio in it or not, but was Greg Valentine cutting an extremely racist promo on Junkyard Dog.
And this man, the Intercontinental Champion of the world, Greg the Hammer Valentine, defends his belt against the Junkyard Dog here in Boston.
You know, I really don't have to defend it against Junkyard Dog. I'm just giving him one more chance. One more measly chance because he insulted me in Madison Square Garden. And WrestleMania, he insulted me by slapping my rock and roll man, my manager, Jimmy Hart. I don't take that lightly. You understand, Junkyard Dog? You embarrassed me for the last time. WrestleMania is over. I survived it. Survived Tito Santana and yourselves' little scheme to set me up in a garden, and it didn't work. And now Boston Garden, here it is. This is the bait. As far as I'm concerned, it's the bait, dog, to get you nasty individual, nasty black person into the ring so I can slap you around one more time, because I didn't finish what I started, you understand? I didn't finish what I started. You don't know who I am yet. You don't know who I am yet. The master of the figure 4 leg lock, and you're gonna find out. Gonna find out real soon. You're gonna taste it. You understand? You understand? I'm gonna slap you around, boy. I'm gonna slap you down silly. I'm gonna slap you down so you go back to the junkyard, or you go back to shining shoes, or you go back to sweeping the floors, or whatever you did.
Challenger tonight will be Junkyard Dog.
How many more times am I going to have to listen to that horrible rock and roll song? Every time that nasty black man comes out to the ring, playing Another One Bites the Dust, how many more times am I going to have to listen to that sickening growl out here on the interviews? Junkyard Dog, I'm sick and tired of you, man. I'm sick and tired of Tito Santana. And we're all going to see what's going to happen to Santana when Beefcake, my Beefcake, takes care of him tonight. And tonight, Junkyard Dog, speaking of tonight, I'm in the greatest shape of my entire life. You want to get down and dirty? We're going to get down and dirty. You want to play Another One Bites the Dust? That's fine with me, man, because that is your story. You understand what I'm talking about? That is exactly what's going to happen to you, man. You're going to bite the dust. I'm going to rub your nasty black face right into the ring, you understand? And all that's going to be left is a big black spot. Tonight in the Boston Garden, the true Intercontinental Heavyweight Champion.
You probably remember what I'm talking about, but that happened at the Boston Garden, and it was just like, it's so cringeworthy because you're like, oh man, but these guys use this as practice, you know? There was some great Savage promos. The Warrior promo once was really bizarre. Hogan, you know, talked up. And all I can think of was a camera set up and just said, let's get some promos, have some fun with it, you know, practice. And it really was a good experience as a fan because you're so close to the action. You know, conversely, nowadays, like I went to the TLC pay-per-view last year, And the problem with it was, we talked about before, is the lighting is brutal. So if you're sitting in a certain band of seats, you spend your show either ducking or leaning up to get that light out of your eyes. So you end up with a sore neck or a sore back. It's just not conducive to good wrestling.
I say this, if you're going to any wrestling pay-per-views in a not-so-distant future, bring sunglasses with you. You're going to need them.
Yeah, definitely.
It goes back to how WWE no longer cares about the live fan experience anymore, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we'll talk about Raw 25th anniversary show.
Sure.
A little bit. But I am curious about why they didn't run more pay-per-views in the Garden. Again, Vince is a New Englander, right? Technically.
Mm-hmm.
You think he would have ran more shows up there, but he seems like he ran more shows in the Garden and in the Spectrum and the Cap Center and the Forum than the Garden. Although they did run a lot of shows, like the Garden, they used to run every 3 weeks. So like there's a TV show with main event matches on MSG Network like almost every 3 weeks. That's slowed down quite a bit over the years, but again, if you watch like 83, 84, 85, 86, there's a lot of them. Lots of double countouts, and a lot of times Hogan goes on before intermission, and they usually have a Bret Hart Hart Foundation match that usually closes the show. That was weird. So that is the Boston Garden in a snapshot. Again, for what we're doing here in terms of the NWA, again, we want to take some shots into the Northeast, right, to keep Vince on the defensive as we continue to build up our territories and maintain our territories. So you figure if you keep him on playing defense, he's not going to be able to expand into your areas. At least that's the hope. Again, we're not even looking to draw money here. We're looking to be a distraction. But I think if you give him a good Flair versus Piper match, Flair being the heel, Piper being the babyface, I think you can do some good business with that. You have Dusty Rhodes on the card and a bunch of, well-known Northeastern wrestlers. It would be Zbyszko, Superstar Graham, Wahoo, guys they would know from watching WWF.
To give you an idea, just so you know, I looked up February 7th, 87, Boston Garden. You have a main event, Randy Savage with Elizabeth against Bruno Sammartino when he was doing that little run.
Yeah.
Dino Bravo with Johnny V versus SD Jones, special delivery. Steamboat versus Sika. The Hart Foundation versus the Rougeaus, and Hercules with Bobby Heenan against Billy Jack Haynes. They were doing that whole ramp up to the WrestleMania. It was a charming place to... And one of the fun things about it, too, is that I have friends that went one time. The Samoans were there. Like it was like the Samoan SWAT team.
Mm-hmm. Head shrinkers.
And they stick... I forget which one it was, but he stuck his head out, and he's like, "Hey, kid." And like, these are the guys who are like, "Hey, kid, get me a hot dog." Gave him like $20 to get him hot dogs. Because they couldn't hook these guys up with some free hot dogs.
Unbelievable.
Terrible.
What's funny is that card you just mentioned, Hogan on that card. So for those people that said Savage couldn't draw by himself, look at that card. Yeah, he's on the card with Bruno, but for fuck's sake, it's Savage that's drawing that house, folks.
Damn right.
I will always defend that Randy Savage title run as a success. A bigger success than the Ultimate Warrior title run a few years later.
Right.
So recently, I tweeted out one of my videos, and I got a response from our good friend and listener to the show, Kevin Von Erich. He saw I believe it was one of our World Class shows that we talked about, World Class Championship Wrestling, and he had some additional insight that he wanted to provide me. So Matt's going to read that aloud for your listening pleasure.
I'm going to say close personal friend, the way Jim Cornette used to. Always loved that. David Crock is my close personal friend. My father was by far the best president the NWA ever had. Wrestling under Sam Muchnick was the golden era. Wrestling shows were held in ballrooms while having dinner. The fans wore suits. St. Louis was the best of all. I was a toddler, but remember it well. Vince McMahon Sr. was, in my dad's words, the only other man in the NWA whose word was a contract. My father wouldn't have said that if he wasn't a good man. Both men stood out. My father was unanimously selected to replace Sam when the time came. I was also at the meeting in Vegas where Vince Jr. brought in an attorney to tell the promoters that having territories was illegal. No one had ever brought in an outsider like that. Afterwards, the promoters hated Vince so much that they couldn't see straight. Vince offered to give my father half the business if we would come up and take Hogan's place. Vince's office didn't trust him to stay loyal, but knew we would. My father refused. I was the only one who wanted to hear him out. We met at the old Amfac Hotel in the early days of DFW Airport. Our TV ratings were so impressive that we doubled our nearest competitor, dominated the hot level, or homes using television, and every other aspects back in the early days when there were two, the Nielsen and Arbitron ratings. No one will ever duplicate the numbers WCCW pulled up. That was from Kevin Von Erich. That's thanks. That's really cool that took the time to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's fantastic that he was able to reach out to us and give us some little bit additional insight. When you hear stories from wrestlers, sometimes you gotta take them with a grain of salt. But, after reading this, and I'm trying to figure out, is this credible, is this not credible? I find it credible. I think he's 100% telling the truth on this. I do believe that Vince may have offered Fritz, would it be half or a percentage of WWF, because he was out there making offers to some of these guys. Now, if Vince would have kept his word, that's a whole different story. Go see Stampede Wrestling. But it would have been an interesting, dynamic having the Von Erichs come in to be number 2 with Hogan, or even replace Hogan if Hogan, tried to hold up Vince or got itchy and wanted to go back to Japan or some sort of kabuki stuff. I think that Von Erichs would have done exceedingly well in the WWF in 1984.
Totally. I
think, in my personal opinion, they're probably the first heartthrob, teen idol type wrestlers. Prior to that, pro wrestlers were extremely rugged looking.
Yeah, I mean, you had a couple of guys like Superstar Graham, maybe, or
but he wasn't attracting 13-year-old girls though.
No, that's a good point. Like the whole Tiger Beat phenomenon.
Yeah,
I think the Von Erichs had that charm about them that made them more popular. And it was also the feud. I mean, honestly, a lot of times the heroes made by the villain, the feuds they had were so fantastic, it really put them over.
And those motherfuckers hit hard. There's no two ways about it, because the way the cameras were in World Class, first of all, World Class's production value, top notch, blew away anything that the WWF was doing at the time. Just unbelievable. And they were getting super close, and it's like, he really knocked the shit out of them. They were stiff as hell. Yeah. You see guys covering up for real. Oh no, please don't hurt me. In the corner, no. Not the face, not the face, not the face. But like I said, when you listen to a lot of shoot interviews, it would be podcasts, and you hear a lot of wrestlers say a lot of wild stuff, like how Greg Gagne invented the NWO. You hear weird stuff like that all the time, and you kind of have to balance, I think this is true, this is not true type stuff. But I find this 100% credible. Vince was out there making offers. He made offers to the AWA. He made offers to a lot of the promotions. But he was able to pick up a couple. So he was able to, buy Georgia Championship Wrestling. He was able to basically integrate, Maple Leaf Wrestling out of Toronto, absorb Stampede for a short period of time. So he was out there making offers. So I find this credible. And I think if you're going to buy a promotion and give a large percentage of your company to, it would probably be World Class. Especially with their syndication network and the fact that they, how well they did on their tours overseas. So I find this story credible. So plus, I think Kevin Von Erich is a nice guy all around. So
that makes a big difference.
Well, yeah, because I've seen a lot of interviews with him, and he's a pretty humble dude, and he seems like a cool guy.
Yeah, and I'm a fan of his kids too. So
his kids are I don't know why they're not signed either to the Performance Center right now, or I don't know why they're not on a Ring of Honor show. I don't know why they're not in Japan. These boys can go.
Yeah, they're getting there.
So I think in the next 5 years, one of them, maybe both, they're going to make it somewhere, and they're going to make a big splash.
Well, Lacey was with TNA for a while, right?
She was.
Yeah, so I'm sure they'll be somewhere soon enough. They're good, so
yeah.
And it's always nice to I always kind of laugh when you see second generation, third generation wrestlers that or any athlete really that do well, because you got to figure that the pressure to be good is unbelievable.
Well, there's a lot of second generation wrestlers that don't make it, and they kind of crumble underneath that pressure, like a David Sammartino.
You think Ted DiBiase was Junior was that way, or do you think just injuries?
No, I think it was just injuries, bad timing. Like a David Flair, Eric Watts, those type of guys that.
Eric Watts, man.
He should have been a heel, but that's another story. Mark Young, a lot of these guys, these second generation guys, Kelly Kiniski, they didn't have it. They gave it the best shot, but they didn't have it. It's more rare to have someone who was able to outshine and be more successful than their father, like a Randy Orton or The Rock. Like those guys are not common.
Right.
Like look at the issues that Joe Hennig, Kurt Hennig's son, Curtis Axel is going through. It's like he's a solid worker. This is not doing anything with him. And you look at Bray Wyatt and Bo Dallas. Those guys can go, but they're not getting their opportunities. They're just kind of just there.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So, being a second generation, third generation star is exceedingly difficult. And I don't recommend it for anyone. Although, have you ever seen Rick Rude's son? Like, we saw him at the Hall of Fame. Why is he not a wrestler? Oh, my fucking God. He looks fantastic. Like, I want to kiss him on the mouth. It's ridiculous.
Oh, maybe he is going to be. Who knows?
I don't know.
That could be a future show. Next generations, who to watch out for.
Yeah, absolutely.
Teaser. Writing it down.
So, in the news today...
Oh, boy.
Vince McMahon had a huge announcement. He had creating another company. I believe it's called Alpha Entertainment. Mm-hmm. And they are bringing back the XFL.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Well, we talked in the pre-show about this, and I feel I don't blame him for trying to bring a sport back. I
blame him for trying.
But not any sport. But I'm saying, like, pick another sport. We were saying before, like, the way to have done it wouldn't have been to do football again. I think it would have been much more cost-effective to do basketball, LeVar Ball in there. You get this attitude, brash league that lets the players have fun. 8 teams, smaller, whatever. Now it's like they're going to do 8 teams, 100 million. 100 million, is it really enough to get the league to go? I mean...
He's going to have to get major investors. He has to try to figure out who was interested in buying NFL teams and was shut out from buying NFL teams.
Yeah.
And I know this is hard to believe, guys, but billionaires who want to buy sports franchises do not grow on trees.
Right.
And, there's also an issue, like if I buy an XFL team, am I never going to have an opportunity to buy an NFL team?
Yeah.
That's a big thing. And I think it's a waste of money. I think it's a waste of time. A lot of people will say don't bet against Vince. Well, I'm going to bet against him on this one. I think he's going to crap out, and that's that. I mean, there's so many other things for him to do than to revisit this bad idea. Bring back Slam Jam, like the basketball league when the trampolines, or lingerie football. That's still around. Invest in that. How about producing some movies that are actually good?
Well, that's what I was going to get to. Is that I think the problem is he was hoping his movie collection would be the next big thing, but instead of investing in a really good script and a really good, he put these small budget stuff out. I say small budget, $1 million stuff, but
they're the equivalent of Canon films from the 80s. If you guys remember the Canon film company who did a lot of those Chuck Norris movies and Seagal movies from back in the day, that's the equivalent of what WWE films is. It's just bad ideas, low budgets. They'll get a star here and there, cast a wrestler in it, and call it a day. And they might make a little bit of money on it, but they're not making any waves in terms of industry. So he kind of crapped out there. He has not been able to put any sitcoms on television other than or any television shows, for the exception of Total Divas. But that seems to be more of a creation of what the E! Network or whatever network they're on. Versus, a WWE produced show. But I don't know what is he doing. I don't know why he's even doing this. Like, football's oversaturated as it is. Football's on the decline. And it's been on the decline for a couple of years, let's be honest with this, folks. Less to do about social and political issues and more to do about other things that go on in the game. Would it be CTE? Some of these players arrest records and their behavior off the field. And the fact that it's better on TV than it is to go to a live game.
Right.
That seems to be the big one. So
I think one of the biggest ones too, no one talks about is so many teams are terrible. Like, and I don't mean terrible like they're like all 0-16 like the Browns were, but I mean in a sense of they're just not well run. They make stupid mistakes. People go, oh, the Patriots win a lot because they do the simple things excellent every time very well. They don't crap out. You know, it's like you're watching college basketball, or any kind of basketball team, the last 10, 20 seconds of a game, and they're like, like maniacs. Whereas the pros get their shit together, they keep it together, they win. I still believe that the Patriots win a lot of the games because other teams just panic and overthink things. But I think as far as football goes, when you have a terrible product and year after year you're paying a lot of money for it, you get fed up. I just think the XBL would have been a really big breath of fresh air. It would have been like, oh man, Extreme Basketball League. We're gonna go 4-on-4 or 5, keep it 5-on-5, and have like
we're gonna have a 5-point line.
Right. Make a half-court shot, 5 points, bang. Only trying that end of a half, and they hit it, and it's like 5 points. Holy shit.
I think it comes down to Vince himself not wanting to die and being remembered as just a wrestling promoter, even though he's the wrestling promoter. I think that has a lot to do with his legacy more than anything else. But how much is it going to damage his legacy by having another failed venture?
Well, that's what I keep thinking about. Like, he could, let's say the XBL was his choice, and it didn't take it. Well, you know what? I don't think it could fail because for $100 million, if you have 8 teams with 8 players, that's not that many players to pay for. And if you're going superstar status, each team could play probably a couple players, a couple million. You'd have some good, decent players. And what LeVar Ball was talking about putting a league like this together, but the league would be players that didn't want to go to college, just wanted to play. It could have been something more in tune with society and the pulse. But if this is something more along the lines like, well, they're going to stand for the anthem in my league. Well, who gives a shit? Like, really, dude, just talk about not making it worthwhile.
It's a little tone deaf, I think.
It is. I'd be very surprised if it is another success.
We don't know if this thing's even going to launch.
Right. I mean, right now, he might get in there and say, you know what? You can't find the investors because people aren't going to be looking to, invest in a thing like the XFL, which is a track record of failure.
Yeah. Also, you have a promoter that was once indicted by the federal government on steroid distribution charges. A promoter that has, numerous wrestling deaths, would it be overdoses or what have you, on his watch. Not that he's responsible for those because he's not,
right.
But it's something that happened. Sexual harassment claims. One of their wrestlers just got in trouble for allegedly raping someone.
Yep.
He has a lot of baggage, and I'm an investor. Am I going to invest with him, or am I going to give money to Magic Johnson so he can open up some more movie theaters? I'm probably going to give the money to Magic Johnson.
Right. And I think that's what if it does not get launched, it's going to be what sinks it is that they just can't get the capital. $100 million isn't enough to float this league. No way. Especially if they don't have like home leagues, and you might get a team out of Texas or Alabama or the South. I've made the argument for years that the NHL should just run 2 divisions, American and Canadian, and that we have a Canadian versus American championship every year. That would be a blast to watch, and because the hockey, if you want to talk about kids growing up, kid has a couple $100 extra laying around for skates and equipment. No, they play basketball, they play football, something easy, Sport of the future is basketball. That's the way to go.
I agree. Or soccer. Soccer doesn't really count in this country, unfortunately. It's good. They've been saying soccer is going to be big since I was a kid, and it still hasn't become big yet. So I think there's a resentment towards soccer here in the States for whatever reason it is, but who knows?
Oh, I can tell you why.
Because we don't have the best players here?
That's part of it. The big part of it is the diving. It hurts it so bad because people watch and go, that's ridiculously stupid. And it's like, as a Bruins fan, I hate the Canadians because the Canadians dive more than any team ever created. And it's infuriating because it's such a poor sportsmanship type thing.
Yeah.
And I think soccer-wise, you see these players who are these world-famous stars, and they take these ridiculously flops. And it's the NBA. It hurts the NBA too, don't get me wrong. But they've kind of toned it down a lot over the years. It's gotten better recently because they started penalizing people for it.
Yeah.
But I really do think that it's the XFL. I get what he's trying to do in the sense that he wants to remake his image, but that wasn't the venue to go. He could have taken $100 million and said, you know what? I'm going to invest in a school or scholarships for kids and people have been like, "Holy shit!" Philanthropy. A way to go, which is a lot better for society than just another failed business venture. So if it succeeds, hey, great for you. But I'll be stunned.
You know what? Not for nothing. Not for nothing. NFL owners are notoriously petty.
Yeah.
So I can see something where a lot of these teams tend to own their own stadiums, or at least have a lot of power in terms of who gets to book events in their home stadium, right?
Right.
So if Vince goes ahead with this XFL thing, you think the Dallas Cowboys want to have WrestleMania at Dallas Stadium? Or they're going to try to make him pay a price for that? I mean, charge him double, triple. Maybe we won't see any WrestleManias at some big outdoor venues anymore that are owned by NFL teams. He can kiss the domes goodbye. He can kiss a lot of these stadiums down south goodbye. If they chose to go down that route, which is also a distinct possibility. Imagine WrestleMania taking place like in the Garden again or something like that, like 15,000 people. Like those tickets would be astronomical. It'd be like $1,000 a piece.
Yeah,
you couldn't even get in the building. Unbelievable. So, XFL. That's what I think about that. Ew. Speaking of EU,
yes,
Raw 25th anniversary show.
I'm glad I was working.
What the fuck was that? Like, I was gonna go to this show, but I felt that $500 was too expensive for me to go, and I couldn't justify it to myself. And this is $500 to go to the Hammerstein, by the way, the Manhattan Center. So I would have been there. And how pissed would I have been if I had to watch about 2.5 hours on a screen in my $500 seat ticket?
Yeah,
I would have been hot. Crowd was livid. They got a couple of 205 matches. They got like a segment with the Club and DX to beat up the Revival, and they had a segment with the Miz celebrating his IC title win, and yada yada yada. But it sure as hell wasn't worth the money that those guys spent to go to the Manhattan Center.
Yeah, that was
how tone deaf were the WWE on this one. If I was running it, I would have gave the matches. I would have given them dark matches. Fuck it. I give them Atami versus Nakamura. They would have ate that shit the fuck up.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Bring up some kids up from NXT, have them wrestle there because they've wrestled there before because they wrestled for Ring of Honor. You know, and your fans would have knew what they are. You keep it dark. You shoot whatever segments you have to, but to keep them engaged. But to do nothing and to have an empty ring for 3/4 of that show, fuck you.
I would have done one big move. I would have had whoever your surprise entrant is going to be for the Royal Rumble on Sunday. Let's say it's EC3. You bring him out there because a hot crowd would have made his entrance so much bigger in the view of the fans. Because let's say the fans are like, who's this guy? Those guys know who he is.
Of course they do.
He comes out and cuts a promo on The Miz or whoever it may be. Yeah. Brock Lesnar. I've been touring the world. I was a champion. I came here and talk about his past. He's come back. He's come home to take over. You get that hot crowd behind him. I know who you guys are. I was one of you, just like you. But unless he wants to be a face or a heel, whatever, right?
You can put him in a ring with Jinder Mahal and have that dynamic play off each other.
Yeah, out of the blue, just our next surprise entrance. Because I just think
wasted opportunity.
They dropped the ball,
big time, big fucking time. You had Undertaker come out and cut a promo that no one knows what the fuck he's talking about. It's just awful all around. And I know some guys on the internet is like, what do you expect? Blah, I'm glad they got fucked. Blah, blah, blah. It was like, you're glad they got fucked until you're the one that gets fucked. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, these guys spent a lot of money to go to that show, and they got fucked. Big time. And if the WWE, did this again, would people show up? Probably, because they have us by the balls. So they know they can get away with this shit. They ain't gonna stop. The people who were there would do it again. Because that's the hardest of the hardcore fans. They ain't going anywhere. But to disrespect them like that is ridiculous. I've never seen anything like it. Now, we know that WWE historically has treated the live crowd like shit.
Yeah.
You go as far back as go to the Superstars taping in 1987, where it's like 5 weeks of TV. And you get to see all the angles play out in front of you for fucking 8 hours.
Right.
Like, yes, they've treated the live crowd like shit. Go to a Raw, it's the most boring shit on the face of the earth. It's just mind-numbingly long, and there's breaks in between, and it's just like, ugh. So if you're going to a WWE show, I highly recommend don't go to a Raw, don't go to a SmackDown, don't go to pay-per-view. Let's go to the house show.
Yeah, definitely.
You'll have a better time. Trust me on this. Trust me on this. You're not going to have goofy lights in your fucking eyes like happened to me at SummerSlam, where I had big fucking orange bright lights in my eyes I could not see. I had to go fucking stand out at the concession stand and watch it on TV. That's how fucking bad it was.
That's terrible.
We contacted the Barclays people. We contacted WWE people. Hey, can you shut down the lights? Can you turn them down? No fucking response. They basically like, fuck you. We already got your money, so fuck off.
Right. And that's the thing too. When you go to a live show, you know, you're putting your trust in them. And unfortunately, wrestling promoters have a reputation of screwing you over once they get your cash.
That was some carny ass shit. That was some fucking carny fucking shit they pulled.
Oh man.
Like, when you have a crowd fucking chanting refunds,
yeah,
you know, we want refunds, we want wrestling. Oh my god, that's just terrible. They know fucking better. They know fucking better. This ain't TNA doing that stupid shit. That's not Ring of Honor doing that stupid shit. This is the WWE, and they're doing that stupid shit. Hell, TNA couldn't even afford to do that dumb shit. They'd be fucking out of business if they did something so fucking ridiculous.
Oh,
like,
absolutely.
awful. Like, fuck you. Yes, that Raw 25, some of it was a little ha-ha, it was cute, but it did nothing to advance the stories for the Royal Rumble coming up. It did barely anything to promote the mixed match challenge that they're doing right now. So it's like, yes, I understand it was Raw 25th and you kind of blew your wad on this show. I get it, whatever. They should have done an hour from the fucking Manhattan Center and then 2 hours of a normal Ash Raw.
Yeah.
And because you have 3 fucking hours, like what the fuck are you messing around for? Like that was such a complete joke. As a fan, as a wrestling fan, it hurts my feelings. My feelings are hurt. And there's a lot of people on the internet, you know, on Twitter say, well, if you don't like it, don't watch it. Which is a ridiculous statement because just because the Jets are bad and the Knicks are bad doesn't mean I stop watching my favorite sports team. You know what I mean?
God, the Knicks, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah, I know. Awful. Don't get me started. You don't give up on something that you love because it's bad. There's literally an entire industry based on people calling into radio shows to complain about their favorite sports teams. That's what sports talk radio is. It's the whole industry based on that. So saying like, oh, just don't watch no more. Man, fuck you. I got 30 years in. I'm way too invested now. I'm not going to stop watching.
I mean, look at this way. Let's say, for the sake of argument, the Jets turn around and in 5 seasons, they're going to be in the Super Bowl. Would you, if you would stop watching in 5 years, you'd be like, oh, man. Because part of that is the journey. I always say as a Patriots fan, we sucked for years. For years.
It was awful.
I'm talking 1-15, baby. Hugh Millen, quarterback. Just absolute terrible. So they'll have a turnaround. It was a better journey. Same with the Red Sox. The Red Sox would find the most painful way to lose. They would. They turned it around. And I always say, like, around the country, I hope like Cleveland turns around. I'd love to see them be in the Super Bowl, a couple of years.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Great story. Detroit, because I'll tell you one reason I want it to happen too is I get so tired of the press with the same old stories of like, boy, those tough luck losers, those Browns. It's been 30, 40 years. It's like, we get it. As I was a Red Sox fan, you heard it all the time. It's been 100 years since the Reds, or whatever it was, 86 years, We get it. Not that I'm bitter. But just saying, as a fan, when you're invested, it's like a TV show. There's some shows I've watched and I'm like, kill it. I don't care. Other shows that I watch, I'm like, okay, like I'll give an example. This Is Us. That show, This Is Us.
That's the one where everyone's crying on that show?
The show is like super dramatic, and it's well done. I'm not going to lie. It's well done. But I watched the first season, and the whole show revolves around the fact one of the main characters dies, but you don't know how. And when you first get the reveal that this character's going to die, you're like, oh, shit. So the show kind of jumps back and forth between the present and past. And for the longest time, my friends would be like, how are they going to die? Like, meteor strike, you know? So it turns out, bringing it back to sports, that this season's finale, they're going to reveal how they die, and it's right after the Super Bowl plays. Like, they're at the program after the run of the Super Bowl, so it's like going to just crush the country. But it is a good show.
That sounds like the type of TV show that makes my penis soft.
Depends. Some of the characters are the hot girl from the AT&T commercials in it for a while. You know the girl behind the counter, Lily?
Yeah.
Oh, she's
make my penis like a raw steak.
Yeah, that too. So anyways, my point being, when you're invested in something, you just can't give it up. So if there's a bad product, I will say this, they generally do eventually kind of respond to things. It might take them years. You know, that's why you vent, to let people know. I always, you know, if things are going fine, you don't say anything. Okay, fine, great, whatever. But my hope is that, you know, instead of giving us like, and this is one of the problems with the company. They bring out DX. They bring out those, okay, great, yeah, DX. But now they're like guys in their like late 40s, mid 50s or more. And it's, you know, it's great. You know, come out, wave to the crowd, but you're an adult now, you know?
Shawn Michaels looks like a homeless freaking drug addict. What's wrong with him?
Oh,
he's so gross looking. He's so far removed from being a sexy boy. It's ridiculous.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like the sexy boy music comes on.
He's nowhere near being a sexy boy.
He's not. That's yeah.
You know, I'm really familiar with sexy boys, especially from the '90s. But I'm just saying that he looks nowhere near any description of a sexy boy. He's not that.
Right.
Like, he's actually the opposite of a sexy boy.
And it's just a homeless boy. Yeah. Yeah, but I think it also, too, is you bring these guys out for these little cameos. One of the things that's missing is when you keep going back to these old stars to kind of bring in the ratings, let your current guys be who they are. You know, like, help promote those guys. Like, I will say this. The saving grace for me was when I watched on kind of review, if you will. The Miz match was really good.
Yeah.
Miz winning the title.
Yeah.
That was well done. The finish was even really well done because you didn't really notice the turnbuckle being missing, and it wasn't the top one, it was the second one. So when he hit it, it sounded really vicious. So it sold it, and this was a great moment. But they should have had more. It should have been like a talk about it the next day type moment. You know, like you walk out of there not with, oh, those guys are great. Like, holy shit, so-and-so arrived.
Like, even the Austin McMahon, like, stunner thing, you're like, hey, yay.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, it meant nothing. It didn't advance the storyline. Like, Austin could have beat up someone else. You know, it could have been anybody.
He could have come out and helped somebody else beat somebody up.
Yeah. Like, he could, like, imagine him facing off for, like, Braun Strowman, just to hear the crowd go, ooh.
Yeah, when you have him and Braun Strowman looking at each other.
Yeah.
And then you have somebody else come in, and they turn around, you know, he stuns the guy, he bounces up, Braun catches him, power slams, and they share a beer. There you go.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, Raw 25.
That's what I think about that. Fucking god awful.
Next on the agenda.
Before we move on, I want to talk about Vince McMahon's face. What the fuck's wrong with it?
He's old.
You think he got work done? Where's Missy Hyatt? She's an expert at this shit. Did Vince get work done on his face?
Not a little bit, I'm sure.
Looks fucked up.
Well, yeah, it's your face, man. You can't keep messing with it.
I gotta ask. I want to tweet at Missy Hyatt and see if she knows if Vince got work done on his face.
He probably has Botox at least, if nothing else.
Well, I would assume so. He looks like he tastes bad. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Okay. He's 70-something years old.
Like, imagine you, like, looking at Vince McMahon right now is like taking a bite of a hamburger and having it taste like sweat.
Okay.
That's what it is. You're looking and it's like you get this burning sensation in your back of your throat. And you're like, what the fuck is this? He looks like Bruce Jenner post-op. What's wrong with him? Looks fucked up. Speaking of handsome wrestlers, I want to take some time out to talk about Harley Race. Now, recently on the show, I know you guys have noticed, at Starrcade 83, the new and improved Starrcade 83, Harley Race was defeated by Nature Boy Ric Flair, and he lost the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So I don't want to take a few moments out to talk about the greatest wrestler on God's green earth, handsome Harley Race. And I find it funny, because he started like 1960s when he debuted. 31 years. He made it to 1991.
Right here is symbolic of what it's all about. This is the world's heavyweight title. And when I say this, I mean it in all sincerity. The world's heavyweight title, held by Harley Race. Not once, but twice. Over half of my life devoted to what I do better than any other human being in wrestling. I am not going to allow any human being to insult me or this. And when I say that, I mean it in dead sincerity. When I walk in that ring, I'm walking in there as world's heavyweight champion. I'm walking in there to defend what I hold probably more close than any other man has ever held. This is my life. You've heard your Ric Flairs talk about being cock of the walk. You've heard your Thunderbolt Pattersons. You've heard them all, Ole Anderson. They all talk about being the man. Flair parades around saying that he is the ultimate man. Well, buddy, this is symbolic of being everything that any human being ever wanted to be. That man is Harley Race. And for one of those individuals that I've mentioned, or the various others, to beat me, then let them walk around and claim to be what they are. You're looking at the world's heavyweight champion, the man that can truthfully say that he can beat any man in the world.
It's funny to me when you think of NWA World Champion, everyone immediately it goes right up to Flair, right? It's Flair, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it has to do was that there's so much more footage of Flair than everyone else. Like Flair promos, Flair matches, everyone's seen 1,000 Flair matches, right? But it's hard comparing him to Dory Funk Jr., where there's very little in terms of matches out there, to Jack Briscoe, which again, there's very little in terms of matches. At least for Jack Briscoe, there's clips of Florida Championship Wrestling, but even those, you get 3 minutes of a Jack Briscoe match, so you get to see all of them. Harley's a little bit more footage, but then Flair does so much of it. And when I think of 1970s wrestling, I think like it's Harley Race in my head, right? Right. I know he won the championship like in 78? He won the championship, but he's like the epitome of like he has his afro thing going with the fucking mutton chops, and he's wearing these patterned suits, and you see like the pinky ring that I could probably fit 2 of my fingers in, and he looks he looks like the toughest man alive.
Tomorrow afternoon, Ric Flair, check it on your calendar at 1:30. Maple Leaf Gardens. Your reign as world's heavyweight champion is coming to an end. I am rewriting wrestling history all over again. Number 8, the Big 8, is coming up. I took the title in Toronto, Canada, once before. I made it my home away from home. It's not Greensboro, North Carolina, with a prejudiced referee in the way all the time. It's Toronto inside a steel cage on neutral ground. And tomorrow afternoon will be Ric Flair's end as world's heavyweight champion.
Compared to today's wrestlers, right, he looks like a monster. He looked like a fucking badass compared to wrestlers of his era.
Earlier in the program, we saw this man in action. He's the only man in the history of the NWA to hold that title on 7 different occasions. And yet, after your first year in professional wrestling and that severe auto accident that you had, the doctor said you would never walk again, far less ever wrestle.
That's right, Gordon. But I've been proving people wrong since I've been in wrestling. I have proved everyone wrong with the world's title. I'm the only man in the history of wrestling to hold it 7 times. And I am here today to say that this, what is talking to you right now, there's nothing plastic about him. Now, up in the New York area, they're used to a lot of camouflage plastic. They've got people running around the city calling themselves what they're not. Well, I'm here to tell you and them right now, in order to prove me wrong, get off your backside and hop in the ring with me anywhere around the world. And I'll guarantee you that I'll show you that what I'm saying is absolute truth. In the last few weeks, you've had everyone else on here, and you've talked to everyone else, Gordon. Well, you're talking to the all-time best right now. You got the Cadillac of the line, or the Rolls Royce, or whatever you want to call it. But I'm here to issue a challenge to any human being walking down the street of New York City or any other part of the great Northeast. Hop your butt in the ring with me and let's see who the best man in professional wrestling is today. Whether it's me, whether it's you. But let's find out. Let's get it out where the people can see it. And I'll prove to you that all you have seen for years is total plastic, buddy. Total plastic. This is the man.
Thank you so much. Let's go to the ring, please.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he just looks like he's gonna murder you. Like he was always like no chucking, no jiving, just almost just so serious that it borderlines to be like comedic at times, because he's like so serious. Like, he's just all about his business.
I didn't think that there was anything on the face of the earth that would ever push me to do what I'm going to do right now. But Flair, you have pushed me as far as you're going to push. Right here is $25,000. And it goes to any human being that can eliminate Ric Flair from wrestling. Take a look at it. Paul Jones, you and your whole entourage of people. Dick Slater. Kabuki. The names, the list, it goes on and on. Any human being that can eliminate Ric Flair for me has got $25,000 cash. I'll give it to any living human being. Jack Briscoe, you are world's champion. You took the belt from me. You're the man. You can do it. It's here for you. Come and get it, please. Somebody take the damn money. I want rid of Flair.
In terms of his wrestling style, from bell to bell, one of the best workers of all time. And if you want to know a modern equivalent to Harley Race, if Harley Race wrestled in the modern wrestling era,
yeah,
just watch Triple H match. Because Triple H, a lot of the stuff he does in his ring is Harley Race. Like, a lot. Like, if you watch a Harley Race match and then watch a Triple H match, it's like, oh, this motherfucker. Like, what the fuck? Obviously, Triple H is doing more modern stuff because he's a modern wrestler, although he's semi-retired at this point. Again, it's always hard to compare eras because, you know, for good or for bad, the wrestling styles have changed over the years. But if you want to get as close to the modern equivalent to Harley Race, it would be Triple H bell to bell. Even more apparent, remember when Triple H had those fucking mutton chops too, and he had that fucking beard, and he looked fucking ridiculous?
Oh, yeah.
Oh. He was not looking handsome back then. Just bad choices all around. What's also notable about Harley Race, he beat both Funk brothers to win the NWA World title. He beat Dory Funk to win his first one, and then he eventually beat Terry Funk. So he was the only man to do that. Again, 8 times World Heavyweight Champion. Yeah, he lost it to Dusty. He lost it to Tommy Rich, Giant Baba, Flair, so on and so forth. But just going over his match results and looking at, the guy was everywhere. He main evented everywhere. AWA, Kansas City, St. Louis, Amarillo, Houston, Florida, Mid-Atlantic, Georgia. The guy was everywhere, and he wrestled, just about everyone. Is most likely the first man ever to slam Andre the Giant. So, which is true. I've seen pictures. I don't know if he was the first person. Much lighter Andre than when Hogan slammed him. In Hogan's defense.
He was pushing a few bills there.
Yeah. End up being the one of the promoters in Kansas City, and famously when the WWF tried running a show there, he first tried to set the ring on fire because he saw the race, and then he came back with a gun to confront Hogan, and he was going to shoot him in the bathroom, but instead of shooting him, he asked him for a job, and he started with the WWF in 1986. You're talking from when he lost the championship in December 1983 to 1986. Those 2 years, what do you do with the Harley Race at that point? He has to come down the card, right?
Yeah.
So he's he's probably doing mostly tags. I know there's this Battle of the Belts where it's Race and Hansen taking on the Road Warriors, which I believe went to a double count out, but ridiculous nonetheless. But even in the WWF, you would think that historically they've shit on guys, like NWA guys or guys from the past. Having Harley Race be the king may have been a joke, but he fucking sold the shit out of that fucking gimmick.
Yeah.
He was still really good. He's with Bobby Heenan. He had that feud with the Junkyard Dog. Had that feud with Hacksaw Jim Duggan where they fought all over the Slammies. And that's completely insane, too.
That was one of my favorite moments. That should have been, I still to this say, they should have had been a recurring theme over the years that whenever they have a big event, just have them fighting somewhere and then back.
With Slammies 2018, Hacksaw Jim
like,
Duggan and Harley Race are still fighting.
Or even if they're just they're playing checkers or whatever, and they're get mad, because they're older now. But this is so, it's such a good angle.
Like Peter Griffin with the giant chicken.
Exactly.
All right, stay tuned for more exciting World Wrestling Federation action just hours away. Down at the Boston Garden. Tonight is the night. Phenomenal card. It's going to be Can-Am going up against Demolition. What a tag team bout that should be. George the Animal Steel to meet Dangerous Sandy Davis. Coco Beware, 1-on-1 against the Honky Tonk Man. And in a return title defense, the heavyweight champion of the world. Tonight, Hulk Hogan, in a Texas death match, no holds barred, will be challenged by this man. Yes, it is a return. The King. Harley Wrestling, Sands manager Bobby Heenan. Heenan apparently not here this week, Harley. The King, Your Highness.
You better keep it that way, Mr. Oakland, because tonight in the Boston Gardens, you're going to see a man's career come to an end. A legend in a few short years is going to be extinguished. Mr. Hogan, I'm looking dead at you, I hope. And if I'm not, I'm looking at those morons that support you. Because in the Boston Gardens tonight, and let me say that one more time, tonight in the Boston Gardens, Hogan, is the end of your career, and you're damn well gonna bow at the feet of the King when I remove the belt.
Well, I'll tell you what, don't run away, Your Highness, but in all due respect, this guy has held the title under some pretty tough conditions for the past 3.5 years. Not even Andre the Giant could upend Hulk Hogan.
I'm not Andre the Giant, and I've held more titles than Hulk Hogan will ever hold the longest day of his life. That's why I wear the crown. And in the Boston Gardens tonight, I'll wear the gold.
All right, we're going to find out just hours away. Hulk Hogan to meet Harley Race Texas Death Match. Don't miss it.
Remember when he tried to murder Hogan with that? He tried to put Hogan through a table and he missed.
No.
Yeah, that was the first table spot.
Really?
WWF, yeah. So he had Hogan on the table and he tried to do the headbutt through the table, but he misses. And he actually legitimately got hurt. He got a hernia and he had to get surgery and shit.
Doing the pile driver?
No, he did a headbutt through the table on Hogan.
And he hurt himself doing that.
Yeah, because Hogan moved, and I guess the table broke the wrong way.
Oh,
Instead
man.
of breaking down, it broke up. So he got fucked up, and that's when they had to crown the new king, King Haku. And
Right.
They had a match at Royal Rumble in Houston. I believe Haku won that match, and then shortly thereafter, he's gone from the WWF, has a couple of matches until spring of 1991, and then he starts managing Vader.
Oh, yeah. Well, my favorite moment with him was with Lex Luger.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Time.
Yeah. So, yeah, before Vader, he managed Lex Luger to win the WCW World Heavyweight Championship. And then said racist shit to Ron Simmons. And then Luger left. And then he started managing Vader. And I'm pretty I want to say he was there on Baywatch with Vader, but I don't think so. I'm kind of remembering. Like, there's an episode of Baywatch where it's like Hogan and Savage, and it's Flair, Sullivan, and Vader.
Yeah.
And I think Race was with them, but I don't think so. I wish he was. In my heart of hearts, I wish Harley Race was on Baywatch, like in a Speedo, like running with Pamela Anderson and making out with her, because I thought that would be awesome for some reason.
Harley would have liked it.
Oh, yeah. Sure as fuck would. Yeah, so he managed Big Van Vader, the Super Invader, which was Hercules Hernandez, and Vinny Vegas. He was the manager of Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash tells a story where they're in Washington, D.C. at like an old shitty building because it's WCW. And I guess in D.C. there's all these one-way streets. So Harley goes in his big-ass Cadillac. He's driving Kevin Nash. He's doing 100 down these side streets going the wrong way on a one-way road. So the cop pulls him over, and he goes to the cop, "I'm Harley Race. I need to get to the next town." And Nash said he was so indignant the cop didn't even give him a ticket and let him go. And Harley drove down like 2 more blocks before making the left. He gave no shits. Like, to me, Harley Race is like the John Wayne of professional wrestling.
Okay.
It's just like, I get to meet him in person, and he's 74 years old and still crushed my hand when I shook it. He's like, "I give no shits. What's your name, son?" Hopefully, he's coming up here to New York again this March. Hopefully, I get to meet him again because he was awesome. So, he's a son who does some wrestling, has a promotion in Kansas City. And he trains guys, and he works with his son in World League Wrestling. So they're in Troy, Missouri.
World League Wrestling? Never heard of that one. He
actually owns an arena called Race Wrestling Arena, and they put events there every month. So, and if you ever watch Exposed, the Pro Wrestling Greatest Secrets, NBC had this special exposing the wrestling business.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it was Harley Race, and his face was covered, but you know it's Harley Race because everyone knows what Harley Race sounds like.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something.
Now's the time.
Now's the time. That'd be like, "We have a special appearance by a man with cloaked identity." "Well, you know something, brother." "I don't know who this is. Who the hell could that be?" "I've been hanging and banging." "Sir, you try hiding your voice?" "Sure thing."
You ever wonder what hanging and banging really meant?
Hey.
It weirds me out sometimes. Remember his war bonnet? Remember Hulk Hogan's war bonnet?
War bonnet?
Yeah, I'll send you a picture. It's completely ridiculous. You probably Google Hulk Hogan's war bonnet. Because it's Hogan and he does ridiculous shit.
Okay.
But going back to Harley Race, he had good matches with Race. I really actually enjoyed those matches he had with Race. Because, Race is a professional. And he knows what the fuck he's doing.
Oh, sure.
All right, guys. So we are officially running out of time. So catch us on our next episode. It'll be live from the New Haven Coliseum. Because fuck you, Vince. We're running Connecticut. Here's the finger, dude. Here's to you, son of a bitch. That's from the New Haven Coliseum. Main event of that show will be Ric Flair, NWA World Champion, taking on Dusty Rhodes. Because we give no shits. Then after that will be our series finale, would be live from Shea Stadium. That's going to be a fantastic show. So, again, we're going to start doing NWA 1984. We're going to take a quick hiatus after this, take a little bit of break, catch a breather. I have to catch up on some 1984 wrestling myself and to prepare for this. So, after our series finale, we'll take a short break, and then we'll be back real quick. But, again, continue to follow us, like, and subscribe, please. Don't forget to subscribe. Very important. So, for Matt Riley, I'm Juan Cena. Hey.